Hello and welcome to the video about what is pH. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about what pH is, what pH paper is, and this is an introduction to your lab that you need to do today. So the main topic for pH is about acids and bases. Some of our favorite foods make our tongue curl up because they are sour, like pickles or lemons. At the same time, some foods have a bite of their own because they're somewhat bitter. And the question is why? What's going on here that we have these reactions to them? And what does that mean in terms of the chemistry of what's going on? The bitterness makes us go, ugh, mainly because most things that are poisonous for us are bitter. But as we said, the scientific reason for this is that the foods are either acidic or basic. Other substances besides food also have these characteristics. Chemicals can be classed as acids or bases depending on certain characteristics. If something is not an acid or a base, it is considered to be neutral. pH is a measure of how acidic or basic a solution is. And please notice that the P is lowercase and the H is capital. Okay, it's very important that you write it the correct way or it doesn't mean the same thing. This H refers to hydrogen and the P refers to the concentration of it. Acids often taste sour. Strong acids can burn your skin and eyes, so you need to be very careful when using them. They can also dissolve metals. For example, lemon juice, vinegar, and car battery acid are all very dangerous. We could also add to this list we could add soda or carbonated beverages, whatever it is you call them. One of the most acidic ones is Coca-Cola. Bases can taste bitter, sweetish, or salty. Strong bases can also burn your skin and eyes, so either one when you're using acids or bases, please be very careful with them. Bases react more easily with protein than with metals. And of course, proteins are things that are found in living organisms or once living organisms. So this is why they're often used for cleaning, because if you get dirt or if you get grass stains or food on your clothing, all of those have protein in them. And so the base of your soap can clean out can break down the protein in your stains. Examples of bases are milk, baking soda, soap, and drain cleaner. Drain cleaner is extremely basic and is very dangerous, so be careful with that if you ever have to use it. Some substances are not really an acid or a base. For example, pure water. Now, if we had pure water coming out of our faucets and we were to test it for its pH, we would find out that it would be testing neutral or a 7 on the pH scale. Our water, however, is not pure water. It has all sorts of stuff in it, from fluoride for your teeth to particulates of the rust from pipes that it might be coming through to potential contaminants from the soil. Most substances can be identified as either acidic or basic, like the soil in your backyard. If you can get to the soil through the snow or whatever, pick some up this week and check it out with an acid or base indicator, as we are going to do in a lab this week. The special name given to the acid or base characteristic that a substance have is the pH. The P stands for potential and the H stands for hydrogen. So technically, pH stands for the potential of a substance to attract hydrogen ions. So again, it's not just hydrogen atoms, but it's hydrogen ions that are important here. And pH tells us how good is it at attracting hydrogen ions. So how do we measure pH? We measure pH by using special strips of paper called pH paper. You should have picked some up for the lab that you're going to do after this. The container may not look exactly like the one on this page, but it's very similar. They all do the same thing. The paper is treated with a chemical that changes color to show the pH. When the paper touches a substance being tested, it turns a specific color to tell whether the substance is an acid or a base. Now notice here in this picture that the person is not just testing a solid, but they're testing a solution. And that is something that you're going to be doing as well. You're going to be testing substances in a solution, in a liquid form, so that it's easier to use the pH papers with. So let's take a look and a little bit more in detail about what this means to be a potential for hydrogen ions to be attached to it. So here we have proton transfer in water. The hydrogen atom in the water molecule has one proton and an electron that it shares with the oxygen atom. So here, the two little gray spots here, those are both hydrogens, and then the big red one is the oxygen. So the hydrogen shares the electron with the oxygen. A proton from the hydrogen atom can transfer to another water molecule, creating ions of H3O plus and OH negative. So, for example, a proton in this water molecule, two water molecules hit and a proton gets transferred. And you now have H3O, which is a positive ion, and you have an OH negative, which is the negative ion. And it's with these that you can look at your pH, which helps you determine your pH. Now they hit again and they could transfer back, so it's no big deal, but it's in that initial transfer here that it causes a situation in water where pH can be measured. So the hydrogen atom of the water molecule has one proton, as we said, and an electron it shares with the oxygen. The proton, as shown here with the little arrows, from the hydrogen atom can transfer to another water molecule, creating H3O plus and OH negative. It can then transfer back again to create two water molecules. So it doesn't matter which way it goes, it's always a proton from the hydrogen atom that's being transferred over, or essentially the hydrogen nucleus. So what that means, those two different ways of the hydrogen moving are telling you whether it's an acid or a base. So an acid added to water donates protons to the water molecules. This increases the concentration of H3O plus ions. These H3O plus ions then donate protons to the indicator molecules that result in the color change. So the chemicals that are on your pH paper are the indicator molecules, and they get protons from all of these excess H3O pluses. So for example, we've got a bunch of water molecules here. We've got a solution that has indicator in it. And if we add some acids to it, notice the protons from the acids are given to the water molecules, and now we have a couple of water molecules that are H3O plus. They then get rid of their extra proton to the indicator, in your case to the strip, and it will change its color. In this case, the whole solution has an indicator in it, but in our case, we're going to be using strips of paper. So when an acid is added to the solution, or when your paper is put into an acid, the acid gives the liquid water molecules an extra proton, which then changes the color, which is then donated to your indicator paper and changes its color. The opposite occurs when you put a base. Bases accept protons. So if you have a base that's added to water, it accepts protons from the water molecules. This increases the concentration of OH negative ions. The H3O plus ions and the indicator molecules donate protons to the OH negative ions. This decreases the concentration of the plus ions and results in a different color change. So here we add the bases. They take a proton away from water, and you end up with some with only one hydrogen instead. And then they give more than some other molecules in the indicator liquid give the protons back, and so it changes to a different color. So when we're talking about acids and bases, you have to remember that bases accept protons and that acids donate protons. Those are the two important things about this. Again, acids donate protons and bases accept protons. On a pH scale, we have a scale that ranges from 0 to 14. pH 7 is neutral. It is neither a base nor an acid. If you have low pH, you have an acid. So anything from 0 to 6.9 is acidic. If you have a high pH, it is a base. So anything from 7.1 to 14 is a base. The closer you are to the ends of the scale on either end, the stronger the solution is. So if you have an acid that is a pH of 1, that's an incredibly strong acid, and it will eat through a lot of things, so it's highly corrosive. Similarly, however, if you have a base that's got a pH of 13, then that's an incredibly strong pH for a base, and that base could also destroy your substance and be highly corrosive. So on either end of the scale, they're not only strong, but they're also typically corrosive. So how do you use your pH paper? So you're going to take a strip of pH paper, you're going to place just one edge of it into the mixture, into your liquid that I tell you about. You're going to observe the color change of the pH paper, and then you're going to match the resulting color to the colors listed on the outside of the pH paper package. There's usually a bunch of colors, depending on what kinds you get, that color matching chart may come out of your container, or you may just have to line it up on the outside. The colors match with a correlated pH number, and the number is the pH value of the sample. So depending on what brand you got will determine what color it changes relative. So you might have a lighter red as compared to a brighter red, but they should be very similar. But what's most important is that you get pH values based on the color that your paper changed. If we take a look at a pH scale to give you a better idea of where we're at, here's 7 in the middle, okay? This is neutral. Pure water would be here. The normal range for stream water is from about 5.6 up to about 7.6. That's average. The normal range of precipitation is as low as 5 or as high as 6.5. So again, increasing acidity. If you have an acid rain situation, then it's even more acidic than that. If you have water that has become acidic into the 4 range, then fish reproduction is affected. Adult fish die when your pH gets to the range of 3. And then we have vinegar, lemon juice, and battery acid. So here you see this big from about high 4s all the way down is acid rain, and that's where you get environmental problems. On the other side, we have 7 being neutral again, and that's pure water. Baking soda and seawater are in the 8s. Milk of magnesia, this is the stuff that you would take if you have a bad stomach, and whether it be from heartburn or from eating spicy stuff or whatever, milk of magnesia is acidic enough or is basic enough or alkaline enough that it will calm down the acids in your stomach. Ammonia is out here at almost a 12, highly basic and therefore dangerous. And lye, which is the stuff that they put around sport fields sometimes, is even more basic than that. So they're highly corrosive. Interesting thing about the pH scale is that it is not linear. It is exponential. So each pH unit is 10 times as large as the previous one. So if you have a difference of pH from 3 and it goes up to 4, then your pH has not, your acidity has not decreased by 1, it has decreased by 10 times. Similarly, an increase of 2 here is an increase of 100 times. So something going from a pH of 7 to a pH of 9 is 100 times more basic. So why is pH important? Well, number one, as we showed on the chart before, environmentally speaking, organisms can only live in certain pH values. Similarly, the human body has a particular pH range in which it is most healthy, and if you get out of that pH range, you can have health issues as well. Now, on another range, if you are a farmer or if you like to eat, then the pH of your soil is super important because the plants need a certain range in order for them to stay healthy. And that is between the acidity of 5 and 6. Okay, so that's where most organic material and mineral organic soils are the most healthy and therefore can produce the most plants. For people, water that has too high or low pH contains harmful dissolved chemicals, because remember that means that there's either lots of positive ions of the H3O positive ions or lots of the OH negative ions. And either way, that means that those ions are going to attract lots of metals. If you are part of the water plant operators where they clean the water sources, you have to keep a close look at the pH of our water to make sure that it stays safe. It has to be within this range from 6.5 to 8.5, or it is dangerous, especially in terms of the amount of lead. So with this better understanding of pH and of how pH paper works, please continue on to do the little experiments you have to do about testing pH of different liquids around the house. Bye for now.